Racism, no matter who it comes from or whom it is aimed at, is unacceptable. This past weekend, there was a horrific race-based shooting in Jacksonville, Florida. When I say a horrific race-based shooting, I mean a man of one race went out with the intent to kill another race, based solely on they weren't his race. At its core, racism is taught. Racism is learned. And when it is learned, it is often learned by a misunderstanding and a poor life experience. People feel some kind of way because of a bad situation they had with a member of a particular race. Then they may read something that they misinterpret or is blatantly insightful towards hating a particular race. And that is how it is learned. That is how it is taught. That is how it is spread. You are not born a racist. Yet, what happened in Florida is the worst case scenario, the worst outcome of unchecked and uninterrupted racist thoughts. There has been a lot said since then, and the route I am going to take, some of you, especially those that hate listen to me, may be expecting me to do a whataboutism, as it is called. Now, in case you don't know what aboutism is, it's when someone is presented a situation and their retort is, what about this? What about that? It's something I've been accused of. It's something that other people use. But I'm not going to do whataboutism. I don't do whataboutism in any way to deflect from a legitimate argument at all. I use it to draw parallels. But this is such an egregious act. There is no need for whataboutism, because there is nothing that I would insult the families of those victims with comparing it to. What I do hate, what I am going to address, is what I have spoken on many times. And it is the politicizing of a tragedy. How something like this is being politicized. How in a moment when communities should come together, the powers that be are using it to drive us further apart. This isn't a time to point fingers. The only person responsible is the man that pulled the trigger. This isn't a time to assign political blame, because we are all people. We are all humans. But the powers that be would rather do otherwise. They would rather focus on who was targeted and by whom. That's their focus. Their focus isn't on healing, which it should be. Their focus isn't on the root cause, just the symptoms. And that is what I am going to address. I am going to attack the powers that be here and show how biased those that claim that the other side is evil, how they use tragedy for their own gains. You see, this white man drove to a black part of town, killed 3 black people before killing himself. Video footage shows that he made a couple of other stops before then. Some investigators suggest that he was looking for a soft target, something with maximum damage, less retaliation. But the politics in it, they are pointing towards Governor Ron DeSantis of Florida and blaming him and his policies for it. They say that if the law wasn't passed for permitless carry, this could have been avoided. I get it. You're hurting. A community is hurting. And when you hurt, you lash out. When things like this happen, you look for someone to blame. You look for sense out of the senseless. So you find something and you latch on to it. I get it. I've been there. But time brings experience, and the combination of those two gives you wisdom. And when the emotion settles and you can start thinking clearer, when you have stopped letting emotion overrule logic, you will see that permitless carry had nothing to do with this. I say that because permitless carry is just a law. A law is nothing but words on paper, ink to parchment, or in modern terms, characters on a document. You see, if that's all it took to stop people from committing heinous crimes, then we would be a crime-free country. People that scream more laws and more restrictions are those who do not know about or understand the laws and restrictions that are already in place. There was a shooting here in Dallas not too long ago. A man went to a hospital, killed people. I don't think people understand that hospitals have a no carry law. I'm not sure if it's a federal law, but I know it's a state law here in Texas. You are not allowed to bring firearms into hospitals. Words on paper. Do you think that stopped that man from walking into a hospital, killing? No. And that is very much my point. The words on paper affect the good guys, the good people. People with bad intentions that have set their mind to do harm don't give a damn about the law. They don't give a shit about words on paper. Their only intent is to cause harm, create chaos. That law, permitless carry, or it's called here in Texas constitutional carry, has very little to do with that man's mindset. The investigation isn't done yet. That man may have had a permit to carry. Does it matter? Honestly. Whether he had a permit or he did not, do you think either way that would have stopped that man from doing what he did? That's what I mean by the powers that be are taking advantage of a tragedy. They're using this to attack their ideological and political enemy, Governor DeSantis. Instead of trying to bring the communities together, denouncing hate crimes as a whole, you use it to drive a wedge to increase your political standing and your power. There are laws that don't allow you to bring weapons on school campuses. We know how well that's played out. Because people keep mistakenly believing that the laws are going to stop this. I said it before when I talked about this. We are only addressing the symptom and not the problem. And the problem is the mental issue. There is something going on in America today that far too many people have far too little respect for human life. Others as well as their own. There is something happening that is pushing people past the breaking point and into extreme behavior. But the powers that be, they don't want to address it. You see, those that would keep us divided play by double standard rules. Within an hour of the shooting, they released his racist rantings and ravings. That happened because it helped perpetuate their narrative. It helped perpetuate their narrative of America being an overwhelmingly racist nation. They did that to perpetuate how evil the white man is and how subjugated the black people are. But when it does not fit their narrative, they swiftly and quietly flush things down the memory hole. Remember the transgender individual that shot up that Christian school? You ever wonder why we still have not heard about the manifesto that individual left behind? Because they admit there was one left behind, but it's too sensitive to express what that person had to say. Politics. Please believe that if that trans shooter that shot up those children at a Christian school, if it was ideologically prudent for the left, they would have released that within an hour. They did not, which tells you how that writing must have leaned. The powers that be, and that definitely includes their mouthpiece known as the mainstream media, do not genuinely care about the minorities in this nation. They don't genuinely care about making things better. They don't genuinely care about healing. It's all about doing whatever they can, taking advantage of whatever situation that arises, and using it to stay in power and keep those subjugated under them blinded and ignorant to what's really going on. I believe that men like this don't just pop up overnight. And from different reports that I've seen, things that I've heard, things that I've read, that I have not been able to independently, to my satisfaction, verify. They say that he had been ranting and spewing this kind of racial hate for a while now. And if the FBI, the Department of Justice, were not so busy doing everything else, I believe that this man would have been on their radar and they would have been able to stop him. Because that is part of the FBI's job. Identifying domestic terrorist threats, stopping them before they become something. Let's just say they'd rather investigate bullshit than the real threats. I mentioned previously that one of the problems with everything being racist is that when the real racist threat appears, it's going to be too late. That's what happened in Jacksonville. The powers that be and the mainstream media are so busy perpetuating every little thing as racism, which I call phantom racism, that when something legitimate popped up, it was just ignored. It is what I said it was before. It is the little boy that cried wolf. So often, my black people are told that this is racist and that is racist. So, as a whole, my people, my culture, bought into it. And anything that did not go their way that was done by anybody outside of the black race was considered racist. This is racist. That is racist. The whole time, people like that shooter were in the weeds, waiting for their time to strike. And when he was in those weeds and he started making noises in those bushes, nobody even looked that way because we had just become so numb. And when I say we, I mean normal people, the people that could have addressed this kind of threat. We had become so numb to everything being called racist that this man fell through the cracks. I want all my people, all my black people, every minority, and those white liberals that claim to be our friend. I want y'all to look at Saturday in Jacksonville. Look at those 3 people that died at the hands of a true racist and understand that that is what real racism looks like. You can catch the rest of that conversation on our Free Mind Thinkers podcast, which you can listen to wherever you listen to any of your favorite podcasts. We are on Amazon Music, Google Podcasts, iHeartRadio, and Pandora. So give us a listen there.